Woman's skin rejuvenates from 53 to 23-year-old. Sanctions' deep impact on Russian economy. Turkey and Pakistan wage war in neighboring lands.
Hello, I'm Johnny. Thank you for joining us on FUNDAY News. It's April 19th, and here are your top stories. In a revolutionary breakthrough, scientists at the University of Cambridge have rejuvenated the skin cells of a 53-year-old woman, making them now comparable to those of a 23-year-old woman. The technology is based on the same type used to make Dolly, the cloned sheep, more than 25 years ago. She was created from a mature cell, which was rejuvenated all the way back to form an embryo. The goal is to use cloning technology to transform cells from human patients into embryonic stem cells to fight many aging diseases.
Experience the environment in a particular way.
According to leading researcher Wolf Rake, the team used a 53-year-old woman's skin cell to create embryonic stem cells, initially with the method the Nobel Award winner Shinya Yamanaka developed. After exposing adult cells to 4 molecules for 13 days, then allowing them to grow under natural conditions. For a period of time, researchers found the cells began behaving like skin cells again. They measured age-related biological changes in the reprogrammed cells and found the cells matched the profile of those 30 years younger.
The ruble has clawed its way back to its pre-war level last week, but Russia's central bank governor Elvira Nabiullina said on April 18th that as sanctions had mainly affected its financial market before, now they will begin to increasingly affect the economy. She noted that Russia's economy cannot survive indefinitely on its financial reserves and will have to have a structural transformation and a search for new business models. She expects that it would take until 2024 to bring inflation back to its 4% target.
Media reports annual inflation in Russia accelerated to 16.7% as of April 1st, its highest since March 2015. When the ruble returned to the 80 per dollar range last week from 139 per dollar on March 9th, with key interest rates as high as 17% on April 18th. Elvira Nabiullina admitted that the impact from sanctions in the second and third quarter will force Russian manufacturers to search for new partners, logistics, or switch to the production of products of previous generations. Russians will also try to issue digital rubles to help the economy.
Turkey has launched a new ground and air offensive against Kurdish militants in Iraq on April 18th, following Pakistani military airstrikes in the eastern Afghanistan provinces of Khost and Kunar on April 16th. Islamabad claiming Pakistani militant groups in Afghanistan are carrying out regular attacks from Afghan soil. Likewise, Turkey claims the Kurdistan Workers' Party bases in northern Iraq are used to stage attacks on Turkish soil.
Turkish Defense Minister Hulusi Akar announced on April 18th that Turkish warplanes, artillery, and troops attacked targets belonging to the Kurdistan worker parties in northern Iraq. Turks struck shelters, bunkers, caves, tunnels, ammunition depots, and headquarters belonging to the Kurds. In the same time, after Islamabad urged Kabul to act against militants in vain, and 7 Pakistani soldiers were killed by terrorists operating from Afghanistan on April 14th, Pakistani military helicopters hit the targeted area.
According to media reports, China's GDP grew faster than expected in the first quarter, with an increase of 4.8% higher than expected year-on-year increase of 4.4%. However, most of the growth was in January and February last month, when hundreds of millions of consumers were confined to their homes and economic activity slowed. The International Monetary Fund warned countries, including China, that the large amount of private debt accumulated during the epidemic could significantly slow the recovery in the coming years.
Moving the Chinese currency into the International Monetary Fund's club of currencies. And finally, you could see
Keith Bratcher, a Pulitzer winner and Beijing bureau chief for the New York Times, said China's strict lockdowns and border controls are exacting a grim toll on its economy. Retail sales, that's consumer spendings, fell 3.5% in March from a year ago. Factory outputs are slower than the first 2 months, and imports fell slightly last month. China admits the urban unemployment rate ticks higher in March at 5.8%, up from 5.5% in February, reflecting greater difficulty for businesses' production and operations.
Thailand's first submarine since World War II is brought to a make-or-break meeting later this month, as the delivery is threatened by the fading chance of China getting German top-end engines. The Thai Navy has turned down China's offer to use Chinese-made engines that are certified by Germany or to transfer 2 of China's decommissioned submarines to Thailand. Germany is bound by a European Union arms embargo imposed on China in 1989 after the Tiananmen Square massacre.
It's been quite incredible, actually, the difference between 2012
John
and
Gravet,
2014.
an analyst for Jane Defense Industry Publications, said Germany and other EU countries have bypassed the embargo for decades, supplying China's military with engines and other equipment. They forged so-called dual-use items with potential military and civilian uses, which are not explicitly excluded by the EU embargo. Yet, he said, international media coverage of the China's sales of the Yuan-class submarine to Thailand made the ruse harder to pull off.
While sanctions against Russia over its invasion of Ukraine have had a devastating effect on the country, it hasn't stopped Russians from being able to use their MasterCards or Visa cards. Media reports the decision by the 2 card companies to stop doing business in Russia from March may not be as earth-shattering as once thought before, as the cards in Russia use a homegrown Russian system to process payments. It's called NPSK, the National Payment Card System.
The National Payment Card System, also known as NSPK, is used in Russia through Mir and SBP payment system. The SBK can oversee card transactions in Russia, even if those cards carry Visa or MasterCard logos. After Russia was sanctioned for its invasion of Crimea in 2015, NSPK was created and launched its own card network. At that time, Russia essentially forced MasterCards and Visa to turn over processing of the transaction to the new system.
Russia is willing to sell at a good discount of its oil to India, while India agrees to pay in ruble. It is also reported that Saudi Arabia is willing to accept payment in yuan for oil bought by China. Could it signal the end of the dollar's hegemony over world trade? Shahid Mahmood, senior fellow with Pakistan Institute of Development Economics, believes that the dollar is hard to budge from its dominance. China tried in 2018, but it didn't materialize eventually.
Shahid Mahmood said in an attempt in 2018, China introduced Chinese crude oil futures in Shanghai and the contract were to be traded in yuan. However, it didn't materialize. He said despite the great financial panic of 2007, limitless wars, COVID-19, and Donald Trump, the dollar has not budged from its dominance. This is primarily due to the world's trust in America's economy and financial markets, a trust largely based on the strength of the country's institutions, especially its central bank and Treasury Department.
In case you don't know that Kyiv, the capital of Ukraine, is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and it's the most endangered heritage site in Europe as the war continues. On April 18th, which marks the International Day for Monuments and Sites, a Federation for Cultural Heritage and the European Investment Bank Institute, Europa Nostra, announced the 7 most endangered monuments and heritage sites outside of Ukraine. In Europe are Zogu Bridge, Albania, Recollets Convent, Belgium, and more.
After Europa Nostro launched a crowdfunding campaign to support the defenders of Ukraine's endangered heritage in March, the executive president of Europa Nostro, Professor Dr. Hermann Parzinger, announced the most endangered sites in Europe outside of Ukraine on April 18. Following the 2 previously introduced, the 5 others are Garden City La Butte Rouge in France, historic center of Stolberg in Germany, Neptune Bats in Romania, Orleans Bourbon Palace in Spain, and Kreuviger Fortress in the Netherlands.
And that's all the time we have for today. Thank you for joining us on FUNDAY News. Let's make every day a fun day. I'm Johnny Wu, your host. I will see you next time.